Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It is a beautiful day in Rhode Island. The sun is shining after a wild and woolly day of weather, and lots of power outages hit about 20,000 different accounts across the state last night, and National Grid is cleaning up the mess as we speak, trying to get people's power back on. A couple quick programming notes before we go to Zach Levesque. First up is today's lineup. Dr. Michael Fine will be on at 12 noon. He's got, I think, some important insights. He's going to be sharing about how we should move forward rather than try and trace backwards. Secondly, we'll have Governor Raimondo's briefing at 1 o'clock. Again, she's still not allowing reporters to ask questions live on air. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll have one of the top political scientists in the country, University of Virginia political scientist, Jennifer Lawless. She, of course, is quoted in, you name it, every week, Politico, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. She'll have insights on Biden and Sanders' endorsement and how the president's doing in managing this crisis. Let's go over to Zach Levesque from Northpointe. Zach, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into, I think it was Friday or Saturday, the Rhode Island Realtors Association came out with their March numbers, and I have to say, I don't usually get surprised on data and math, but on this situation, really shocked of the number of closings, the strength of the real estate market, average home, single-family home price was up. What was your take on those numbers?
Yeah, I was surprised, and it's certainly some good news. I think everybody has to be cautiously optimistic and hopefully more optimistic. The numbers were up year over year, and I think the effects of the pandemic, we all feel, will be felt a little bit further into the summer market. So as the pandemic hit in February and March, usually February and March transactions that go into contract close 60 to 75 days later. So I am expecting still a little bit of a pullback, most likely in the June, July, August market, but certainly good news. And I think I think it has to do with the fact that before the pandemic hit, we had low inventory in the state. So that low inventory is spurring the real estate market to stay as hot as it can with all the challenging times that are in front of us right now.
Yeah, is there just so much pent-up demand, especially in key areas of the state, which then has kind of a trickle effect, the east side of Providence, Barrington, East Greenwich, and then the coastal communities, that there's so much want and so little inventory that this may help us get us through these next few months?
Yeah, I think it will. And, it's the whole supply and demand law. There certainly was an inventory shortage moving into the time that this pandemic hit. And the other thing to really pay attention to is how many properties are coming to market now, because when this pandemic hit, we saw less properties be listed because, quite frankly, sellers aren't motivated right now. They're in their homes. They don't want other people in their homes, and they don't want people to look at their house right now, physically come into the property. So I think that activity slowing down now is also going to continue to spur the market. And let's not forget, once we come out of this pandemic, and it looks like, there's a lot of positivity in the market right now, as soon as we come out of this, we're in a long-term extended low-rate environment. So you couple that with low inventory, all signs point to, in my opinion, a busy summer for real estate and moving into a busy fall in real estate.
One unintended consequence that I've heard now twice from realtors who work on the east side of Providence is a tremendous amount of interest out of New York.
Yep.
Folks, they're not coming up to look, they're online, they want to move out of New York City, their jobs don't depend on them living in the city. Providence prices, even on the east side, that average $650,000, $700,000 is peanuts for them. That's half their condo's value. That they're looking up here and may fuel demand even during a shutdown period.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, a lot of that has to do with us. We were in a remote work society. There was a paradigm shift in the workplace over the last 10 years. And to me, what this pandemic has really done has shown people that they can be just as effective in most jobs at home. So if you don't physically have to work in a big city, a lot of people don't love being in a big city. And I'm sure, I don't want to speak for the people in New York, but I'm sure there's a lot of scared citizens there, and they realize that when issues happen like this, these epicenters, New York, Boston, are the cities that perpetuate it more because of proximity. So I think that that's probably spurring it. And to your point, real estate values, even on the east side, which are a lot higher than other areas in Rhode Island, do not seem high to New York residents because they're used to
Yeah.
paying very high property taxes, and they're used to buying real estate at a higher amount than is offered at market in Rhode Island.
No longer is the kitchen going to be the focal point of the buyer. It's going to be the home office, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that. I've read a couple articles about how there's so much emphasis on new home construction on the office because so many people are working from home. But I'm a kitchen guy, so kitchen is always going to be most important to me.
Let's talk about what the summer's going to look like. Those March numbers were great. Obviously, it didn't have the full effect of what we're into now. But talking to other folks, there seems to be just a complete morph. You don't have to go into the house to buy the house. The inspector doesn't need to go into the house. Especially if you're a pre-qualified buyer and you haven't lost your job, you're in a pretty good situation to be able to potentially make a transaction during this period, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot of factors, obviously the timing in which we exit the current stage that we're in of all the fear with the pandemic, and the stock market's been hurt, but obviously it's coming back. A lot of buying behavior when it comes to cars, houses, vacations, all has to do with confidence in really the economy. So I think the large question is, when do we emerge from this, and what does the economy look like? What does unemployment look like? But regardless of what that looks like, we still will emerge from this in a low rate environment, in a low inventory environment as far as properties on the market. So that's going to be a catalyst to keep momentum going. And if we do emerge out of this sooner than later, which is everybody's hope, remember, we're emerging from it in hopefully May, June. It's going to be warm out. That's the best time to buy property. Rhode Island is very seasonal compared to other areas in the country. A lot of our transactions happen between that March and September corridor because, quite frankly, it's nice. You can see the outside of the property, and people are generally in a better mood in the summer. So I think that there's a lot of things going for us in the timing of it. And I'm hoping that because we've seen transactions potentially go down going under contract, which means I do think June and July numbers will be down year over year compared to last year. I think if the timing is good and we get out of this soon, we're going to see a summer market hit hard, and we're going to move right into fall and winter, because you remember last year in the market, we didn't really have that much of a downturn in transactions in December, January, because it was a little more mild of a winter. And since inventory was down, if people had a need to buy, it was irrelevant to them when and what month, because they needed to buy and they needed to put offers. So I'm being very cautiously optimistic, but as always, I'm very positive, and I really feel like if the timing of this is right, and it looks like numbers are starting to fall, God willing, if we get out of this soon, we're going to be into a very hot market in the summer.
Zach, the federal stimulus dollars has had its bumps and bruises in getting out. It appears from the reporting at the national level that some of the big banks really captured a tremendous amount of the dollars, and in some critiques directed it to their biggest relationships, and smaller businesses have been a little bit left on the sideline. The governor announced yesterday a deal with Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is going to step in, try and help some small businesses. What do you hear, and is this fixable?
Well, yeah, so you're talking primarily about Small Business Administration, SBA. So first, let me say that Northpointe Bank does not offer SBA.
No, I understand that, but the implications are to the economy are obviously significant, and people's buying power to be able to go out and purchase a new home or trade up or trade down.
Of course. And I think we're hearing a lot of great stories about companies that aren't getting help by the federal government that do have the resources to support and get through it. But obviously, small businesses are not Starbucks, are not these large companies that are insulated to withhold 3 to 6 months of zero revenue, right? I mean, a lot of these businesses, if not all of them, have zero revenue right now. I think it's a good point. I saw the Goldman Sachs piece. It looks to me like there needs to be more money, and hopefully the governor can get involved and negotiate directly to get more money, because I hear that it was the money was used very, very quickly. I'm not sure of the time period, but if I were a small business owner and I was out of business, I would be calling my constituents. I would be trying to contact banks that offer SBA loans, because although it's not easy to write a loan, especially a business loan, from what I'm hearing and some of the sources that I deal with and talk with on a daily basis, they are trying to fast track these approvals. So, nothing venture, nothing gained. If you are a small business owner, put some effort into it, communicate, tap your constituents, and we're all pulling for you. And the best thing that I could say for everybody listening is, right now, there seems to be a positive momentum shift. Momentum is important, and if we all collectively have that feeling and we all continue the guidelines from the federal government on social distancing and staying home, the bottom line is we will be out of this quicker. And the $1 million question is, when can this economy restart? There's no magic key, although Trump thinks that there might be a magic key. There is no magic key. We all have to get out of this together. And when we do, we have to get out there and support the economy in any way that we can, and not stay home anymore. And I think everybody's kind of sick of staying home. I know I am.
Zach, wrap up. Tell us what you're hearing from folks who are your customers or folks that are looking to get a mortgage. What are they saying to you?
Right now, well, on one side, the refinances, we're as busy as we ever have been on refinances, believe it or not, because rates have gone down just above historic lows. So right now, and it's good timing, we're able to help out a lot of homeowners. Most of our businesses, Rhode Island, Mass, and Connecticut, but a refinance, especially right now, to save a couple $100s a month is a good idea. And obviously, the results differ depending upon what rate you qualify or what your mortgage balance is. But refinancing activity is up huge. Our bank is able to handle that because of our, we have robust operations that can maintain efficiency even through these times going remote. The purchase side, we've lost some contracts, meaning we've had clients back out of contracts because they're just not comfortable. And I don't think they're stepping away for good. They're just putting things on ice, per se, waiting to see how long this lasts. And they're afraid physically of going into a house or going to a closing, even though we can keep it remote. So we're still seeing purchase transactions go into contract, because to your point, you can look at a virtual tour, you could FaceTime an agent that is, at the house, inside, outside. So there's so many ways. And if you go on Zillow and Realtor.com, these sites, all the properties listed have so many pictures. So we're lucky that that there's been so many tech advances over the last couple of years in real estate, because quite frankly, they really prepared us for this. I mean, that wasn't their idea to do, but they prepared us to be able to facilitate transactions, which we're doing now. So, I am seeing people back out of transactions, but it's at a lower level, and all the people that have stated that they're just waiting. And, I don't want to say there's not one house for somebody, but even in a low inventory market, which we are in, there's always another house. And, maybe people went under contract at a higher level with a higher price listed house, and they took a step back and said, you know what, maybe I need to downsize my thoughts here and go to a smaller house and spend less money. So those are all good conversations that we like to have with our clients, because we want them to be happy. But I do have to say, I honestly thought that transactions were going to be down more than they are moving into May and June. And I think that article, which came out in March, proves that we are going to be affected. And I think we're going to have a slower quarter, June to August, compared to last year. But I really do believe that once this turns around and the sentiment gets positive, we're going to be into a heavy market. And I'm hopeful for that. And I'm hopeful so that everybody can stay to work and we can get as many clients that are pre-approved, because we have a lot of clients pre-approved sitting there waiting for a house, just waiting for the right time. So we want to help them as well.
Zach Levesque, always insightful, always got your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the marketplace. I want to thank you. The sun is shining. The stock market is up. Let's enjoy the day and try and help somebody out during the course of the day who might be a little less fortunate across Rhode Island, across the region. Zach Levesque, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the time. Talk to you soon. Okay. 12 o'clock. Dr. Fine, 1 o'clock, Governor Raimondo, 3 o'clock, UVA professor, political scientist, Jennifer Lawless. Thanks everybody for tuning in.